Well, this is me taking that broadcast. Hold still, chat. I got you. Rafa's got you. Bam. We have been given the broadcast. And now...
It's a very warm embrace. I'm loving this.
Thanks, man. My hands are a bit sweaty at the moment because it's been so hype after the last series, but, you know, I appreciate that.
The only way this hug could get even better is if you bring in that Snorlax that you've got. Oh no, what did I do? There he is! The big boy himself!
It's my spirit animal. All right. You gotta stop baiting me into distractions, Max. Here we go. Sentinels Choncc Chortle. The winner of this series will be the other team that automatically qualifies for the North American Regional Championship next month, where Tribe, Enemy, and now joining them, Grilled Cheese alongside Immortals and Cloud9 will already have qualified for. There's only one more spot. And then it's just going to come down to the last chance qualifier that we'll have at the beginning of October.
Something I find really interesting about the way the Sentinels have been playing all through today is their priority on this Ashe pick. And for them, they feel like it's important enough to ban away, even if they're not the ones playing it. Now, I don't actually know if a lot of the other teams have this level of priority on this pick. It looks like it is mostly just Rest pulling it out. But the fact the Sentinels are doing this just shows how broken they actually think this champion is. And I think that's really cool. Like, just the risk of Choncc Chortle potentially picking it, Sentinels knows how good this pick is.
Yo.
However, by doing so, they have left up the Nami Lucian. And I think this is a much bigger deal when it comes to Choncc Chortle and how they play out through the Dragon Lane.
We saw how Choncc Chortle single-handedly turn around both their semifinals and grand final series in the qualifier earlier this week when Nori went from playing, I think it was Avaris, and did not look comfortable on it whatsoever.
Yeah.
But then you give him the Lucian, oh man, completely 180. It's really in the same wheelhouse as we just saw what happened with Steezy going from Ziggs to roamers like Ahri and Annie. And speaking of Ahri, Michael is locking in the Firefox this time around.
This is a champion that we've already seen put to good use today. And it's not the same Lee Sin combination that we typically see with it, or at least I say typically just because I feel like it's such a commonplace thing after we watched it once. But it is Olaf still, and this is a lot of burst through that champion at the same time. This is really interesting. Michael actually leashing the Raptors for his jungler, getting Sheesh off to a very rampant start on Olaf.
Something we didn't mention either, Choncc Chortle's 80s has a special jungle pick, and he's locked in game one. It's the Darius jungle. No other jungler in the world, as far as I know, has played this champion in the jungle role. It has specifically always been a Baron lane pick, and 80s showed us it in the qualifier earlier this week.
Really cool stuff, just providing another bruiser threat to this team for Choncc Chortle. And they already have like enough backline damage. You don't really need anything other than that one. So just more resilient front line is all that they are looking to do. As Luan, yeah, he's going to need to be more resilient than that as well. That's a barrier popped in just the 1v1. Nice pressure from MTS.
Now this has a solid summoner advantage for the next couple of minutes. Variant Flash available. However, 80s is on the top side of the map, so MTS can't really push that lead unless he can for sure burst out before 80s can get and collapse in time. But Sheesh is currently counter-jungling on the other side of the map. Michael trying to stall out this counter-jungling attempt. Luan still has Flash, could set up for a Slice and Dice Flash Ruthless Predator, but Michael already is respecting that potential. Burns his own Flash.
Just a lot of pressure in this early game. This is one of the cool things about Darius is that you don't have the same level of movement as something like a Camille or a Lee Sin or something, but if you do get in range with your Ghost, perhaps as 80s is rocking for us today, then you have all the damage that you could possibly need. You get the Apprehend hook on in, you get all the bleed stacks. You have to be very careful around this pick. So I'm really liking this look from 80s as he's going back to clearing. He wants to hit level 5, which he does just now do, and will need to counter gank this as Sheesh is in the area.
80s wraps up Sheesh,
Ooh.
and she says, okay, you want to pull me towards? I'm just going to assassinate your Nami. Gets first blood for Sentinels, but Choncc Chortle able to fire back, literally as Nori pours out an entire clip with that calling, able to answer back onto Rest. He's able to escape sheer danger before he's able to heal back up with Honey Fruit, but Sentinels were able to answer on another one on the backside.
Nori lived with a sliver of HP there. Could have potentially been another kill for Sentinels, but not quite connecting on that. Michael Udall did pump the ultimate and that summoner spell in, but didn't have perhaps another auto attack or anything, as we do get to watch this replay. As you said, the apprehend hook in onto Sheesh sort of just brings him exactly where he wants to be to kill Hestia.
Pull me in? Okay, let's go. There's no more tools from 80s that can really stop me. And then sometimes I love it when players will react and try to like kind of up the ante in terms of starting a fight. Choncc Chortle open up with like, you know, $50. That's the opening bet. And then she just says, okay, I'll raise you 100. Boom. What happens now? And then Hestia's like, wait. I'm not ready to all in quite yet. Please get me out. I'm just a fish.
And then Hestia folds. That's the conclusion of the poker reference. Although, I feel like Sheesh playing this Olaf, that's like the name of the game for Olaf. It's always up the ante, always go further in. And there's really nowhere that isn't too far for Olaf as long as you do have that ultimate available. So you can see he's going for the Death Stance. So this is a build that Sheesh typically does provide for us, and you get a bunch of sustain, and it does help you keep going in. As long as you're getting those kills, you're getting the healing off of that. This is a very beneficial first item to go for in the early game. And if you are playing the full carry Olaf, as they do have Beg on Lulu again.
Yeah, if you're not playing Olaf like a psychopath, you're doing it wrong. Just straight up. Like, otherwise you should be playing a different champion. And thankfully, Sheesh does fit the profile. Not as a person, just, you know, as a player.
Nice save. Don't want
Sentinels...
to be...
Yeah. Don't worry. Now, this is the psychopathic tendencies, though. You just dive a turret, and you force Choncc Chortle into trying to limit test you. And Sentinels, they're packing more damage, they're packing more upfront burst, and they're able to sustain through it because, as you called out, Death Stance just allows you to push that limit even further thanks to the bleed passive, mitigating all of the damage taken over time.
She's just cut me off like, no, Rafa's right. Just let me go do my thing, man. And nicely done for Sentinels. They have a gigantic lead all of a sudden. They can potentially use this Rift Herald for something else as well. They already got first brick without popping it, so another outer turret perhaps is in the cards for the Sentinel squad. Looking potentially at this mid lane, you can see the duo has already rotated on over there. Not a very safe place to be if you are Nori and Hestia. And I think something that's really neat about this is that Nori and Hestia, yeah, they're really good at getting advantages in their own lane. The real power does come from when Hestia is able to rotate out and leave Nori on an island, but that's just not something that they're doing quite yet, and it's mitigating one of the really big power points that we like to see from Nori and Hestia typically.
Goldly is starting to slowly build up to Sentinels thanks to all the early pressure that Sheesh has been able to build up through those dives onto the bottom side of the map. First objective, though, was secured by Choncc Chortle in that dragon. Rift Herald being traded over to Sheesh. He hasn't plopped it down quite yet for some plates. Hasn't found an opportunity, and with double duos in the mid lane, might be the target towards that Baron lane for the Rift Herald. Would be the easiest.
Certainly would be the most simple gank to happen, as we are already seeing MTS get a nice trade onto Luan just on that mini map there, forcing the honey fruits again, and maybe a reset, as Luan is definitely thinking about getting out of this. Does not want to deal with the Camille anymore. See, there's a pretty gigantic lead in the terms of the gold there, just about a minion wave and a half over the opponent. It's It's probably just because of the global gold from first turret, but the laning has been going really well for MTS all the same. And while Sheesh is still deciding where the Rift Herald is going to go, the lanes are working out even without it for Sentinels, as they are still making that gold lead increase over time.
First item power spikes as well have been completed for a majority of these members, save for 80s' Darius. Have some scrapping in the mid lane, Rest taking a little bit of the culling, but Michael forcing the flash out of Hestia. Coming over the wall with that Spirit Rush, looking for the Charm pick. Doesn't quite find it, but a Summoner Spell is something to punish. And now, look at how they're setting up for this Dragon. Sending the Rift Herald, it has to take Choncc Chortle's attention, and I imagine Sentinels are just looking to burn down the Dragon immediately.
Nice use of that objective. It likely won't get a charge this way, but they value the Ocean Dragon more than the immediate gold. And I think with the lead that they have, that makes a lot of sense. They do lock it in.
Whoa!
Oh, no.
Okay, well, you know what? Package is still a decent engage. Tidal Wave will follow up as well. They take down Sheesh. The rest of the fight is starting to go Choncc Chortle's way. They have already... They actually don't find a second kill quite yet. They're looking for the re-engage. Luan is here. Rift Herald is still hitting the mid-turret, by the way. It got a charge off. It finally dies. But for Choncc Chortle, they are not able to find any more kills off of that engage. It just ends up being a 1-for-1.
The sadness that I'm sure ensued into 80's entire body as that apprehend goes slightly to the right. Not going to feel good in this very tense situation. You can see MTS ushering the cannon minion underneath the turret. As you mentioned, Rafa, the Rift Herald did in fact get a charge off Choncc Chortle. We're trying to go for a fight. And with that sort of half measure, they end up killing Sheesh at least once in this game, but not a whole lot else to come away from. And Choncc Chortle, they are getting the resources to their members as best as they possibly can, but they're not dividing it in the same way that we're used to seeing from them. Nori is the most fed member on the squad, but hasn't gotten that much alone time to just push down turrets, and I think a lot of that is because Sentinels aren't really allowing him to do that.
Choncc Chortle still trying to find ways to restabilize themselves. They still have a solid late game off of this marksman backline. You have Corki, who's going to be pelting out tons of magic damage thanks to the passive, and then Nori will still keep you on the physical damage load side, making sure that the damage profile is evenly mixed in between the two backliners. So it's not like Choncc Chortle is completely down and out, but they are behind in pacing right now. 5,000, almost 5,000 gold.
Hestia is going to be chunking too, so don't count out Nami, okay? You remember that one ranked game where I built a death cap on Nami?
Yo, if Hestia builds a decap after this Rod of Ages, I'll believe it too, man.
I think that was just a me choice, probably.
Well, the me choice is not really in Nori's choice at all, because he just gets ran down by Sheesh and Rest and Beginnings. You have a man advantage. Molly and 80s come over to try and defend this turret, but Sheesh just doesn't care. He pops the Ragnarok. He advances forward and pushes Choncc Chortle away, but the follow-up from Rest and Michael will leave Choncc Chortle running away. Health bars low on Molly and 80s are going to force both of their recalls. Hestia might try to join up to Luan, but Luan already has the signal. He already knows that the rest of Sentinels are on their way.
And speaking of the rest of Sentinels, he is dealing so much damage on the Kaisa, man. This is really insane, all of these spells being upgraded and all the auto attacks coming through on all these members. Rest is really hurting. I take it back. The Nami's not going to hurt nearly as much as some of these other champions. And look at this. Rest already has a full inventory. He is not messing around with these two first items and components galore.
So far, Sentinels looking at now as their gold lead has extended to just under 7k. Not at the point of no return yet, but for Choncc Chortle, they're starting to get antsy about their position in this game. Nice package. MTS getting locked up, has to flash away before the rest of the chain CC follow-up was there from Choncc Chortle. The rest of Sentinels, you see Michael approaching with the Spirit Rush, misses out on the charm, but now the rest of the members of Choncc Chortle are collapsed here. Beautiful patience from MTS with the stasis, re-engages, and Choncc Chortle are dropping like flies. Luan is only the last member remaining, but he may not be long for this world because look at the damage from Rest. Kites him down. That's a full ace for Sentinels.
And Luan just ends up leading them right down the path of Baron. What a perfect position to end that fight on for Sentinels. I love the way that the Rest played this again. He is really impressing me on this Kaisa, as we're going to get another look at what he's able to do on this pick. And like you said, the package to flank MTS is really solid, but he's so tanky on this Camille. He gets to take the honey fruit, and then the real flank begins. Watch the way that Rest is able to just move around the front line. He's getting engaged on by Luan, and then just dashes right on out of there as a disengage with the ultimate. Really nicely done.
Sheesh even gave up his life for the cause because he got into the strike of the backline.
Oh, man.
And now, we wouldn't even get a chance to recap the last bit of the fight because we got another one right now. Molly having the Valkyrie over the wall, but MTS still on the chase. Rest finds the assassination with that killer instinct. Takes down Molly. Choncc Chortle now down 2 members. Going to be up to Hestia, Luan, and Norn to try and defend the remains of this mid turret, but with the Baron on their side and Michael splitting up their attention through the Dragon Lane, the rest of these structures are not going to be long for this world as Choncc Chortle now facing a potential defeat in the game 1 of this series that could determine whether they can advance to the regional championships or not.
Sentinels are taking every single thing at the same time. Mid lane turret, bot lane turret, and the Drake here for Sheesh. Clean sweep for Sentinels. If we're going back to the poker references, I believe that's called a full house. You could do a bunch of different terms, probably.
You can say a flush. You can say a straight. I like flush.
Just a good
flushing
hand.
and sweep. Yeah. They come out with the better hand. We'll have to storyboard that one a little bit.
Yeah.
I'm sure, you know what? If we call up Joshi, who's currently doing Proving Grounds right now, maybe we can figure out what would be like the appropriate term, because he's really damn good at poker. For now...
Oh, is he? I thought he was just a chess guy.
Nah, dude.
Good at all the games.
Whenever it comes to tabletop, Joshi's kind of a beast, dude. No cap. Now, Choncc Chortle, unfortunately, there's no cap coming in for Hestia. He's gotta opt into the Ardent Sensor. I'm just kidding, by the way. Like, I don't actually want Hestia to build a decap. That would be fun.
Ability power, go!
Well, I don't think ability power is going to save Choncc Chortle at this point. You got to keep up the heals, and you got to buff up the marksmen who are supposed to be the ones dealing the damage right now. But she pops the Righteous Glory and also already forces 80's hand to back away. No more proto build for the next next couple of waves, I want to say.
Another wave happening in the Baron lane right now, trying to take out the 3rd and final turret of the inhibitor variety. The final turret of the game as well, potentially for Sentinels. They keep this pushing in. Another fight on the other side of the map, though. Sheesh doesn't even use the ultimate, but he draws the attention of 2 members of Choncc Chortle. Another wave crashes in, and Sentinels just wait and bide their time for the next objective to spawn. You can even wait in the enemy team's jungle, so they get some resets off. There's a Cork's package, though. That's a pretty big bonus.
Despite being down 15,000 gold smacks, Choncc Chortle have completed 3 items, on both their marksman dealers. Now, if they are able to catch out Rest, that's their main damage dealer down. Oh, but you can't be the ones getting caught out.
Reverse.
Oh, that's 1 marksman done from Choncc Chortle, and it's just going to be easy pickings for Sentinels to just run through the enemy backline. Molly's able to find one back on to Sheesh, but Michael is still running them down through Spirit Rush, but Molly might be turning this around, but a beautiful charm from Michael, despite going down, will be able to trade with MTS and Beginnings. It's a 2-on-1, a Baron laner support versus support. Hestia really wishing that maybe she had a death cap right now to clear out the minion waves, but I don't even think a death cap would have saved the game at this point, because MTS, he doesn't care, and he's going to take game 1 for Sentinels.
If Molly and 80s are snowballing their side of the map, then it lets Hestia roam around and help them. It lets Nori stay on this island, and Sentinels, or whoever their opponents may be, have to respond to that side, rather than trying to dedicate resources to Nori. And if Choncc Chortle can replicate something like that, then I feel like it's more agency going over to them. And I think this team works very well with agency. It was their main strength when it came to that qualifier, where, as you said, they swept through the entire thing. So that's something that isn't really something you can adjust based on the champions you're playing as easily as you can just execution when it comes down to the game. So it's harder to make that adjustment between games, but it's something that we've seen Choncc Chortle do in the past, and it's going to have to be something that we see them do now.
Just a reminder for the game in the draft last time, we had Varus, Senna, and Orianna banned by Choncc Chortle. But they're on blue side. They don't now. Normally, you don't have the banned Varus blue side, but because Nori doesn't prefer to play it and looks a lot stronger on things like the Lucian, yeah, it might be another Varus ban, unless Sentinels have done the research and know that, like, yeah, these guys don't really opt into Varus, so they don't really have to change any bans. The first adaptation, though, is taking Sheesh off of the Olaf. I mean, he was the main instrument for orchestrating those dives, but Sentinels banned the Varus. Now, unless Choncc Chortle's been getting some Varus scrims in for Nori, Choncc Chortles are very happy with that, because they're like,
yeah,
sick, free ban.
I think for Choncc Chortle as well, their premier first pick that they're looking for is Nami. Yeah. I think that's been the most consistent thing for them, is just getting Hestia on that champion. She can play others, obviously, but if they can get that first pick online, then I think that's something that they're looking to do. And I really like the Choncc Chortle are removing Ashe as well. It's like I said, Rest has very heavily preferred this champion, enough to where they're banning it if they don't feel like they're in a good enough spot to pick it. So I think that's really smart. From here, though, Sentinels, they can either ban that Nami, like I was saying, or they can ban the very OP Senna that we've also seen Choncc Chortle have some pretty good success on. Or just neither, as it seems.
Well, the twist of fate was Molly's main supportive champion and playmaker outside of the Assassins, where he is able to unlock 80s, Luan, or even Nori on multiple sides of the map. Senna is available as a first pick, but if Nami is a priority for Hestia, that can be the case. It's really just, I imagine, Choncc Chortle are just deciding, do they want Senna more or do they want Nami more? Sentinels are going to be able to grab the other on the flip side.
I think this is the wise choice for Choncc Chortle to take Senna. They've only shown us Senna and Nasus as a combination, so I think that's something that Sentinels can expect, but it's not like you're taking away Nasus without Senna. This is not a champion that you can realistically pick outside of the scope of that duo. Unless you're in solo queue, then you can bot people over the head with like a Trinity Force Nasus, but I don't think that's something that Sentinels are looking to do, and they don't either. There's locking in these two bruisers for themselves likely means that Sheesh is going to be the one on Camille off of this.
It would be neat to see like a mid lane Renekton. If you check out we've been watching C Champs, and there hasn't been a mid lane Renekton, if my memory serves correctly, but there's been things like mid lane Jarvan a ton of times. And so if Michael has been taking inspiration, we might see a bruiser in the mid lane. It's still up in the air. Choncc Chortle, though, say, all right, it is time to go Fiora, and it's also time to go Pantheon. So changing up the whole things, and already, Smacks, this is what I'm looking for, Choncc Chortle, because they have Senna in the backline. You're starting to build a bunch of fighters, a bunch of brawlers, meatballs that get in front of the Senna, and Sentinels are going to have to find a way to be able to cut down these people to size. Kai'Sa, Lulu is their answer.
Not only are these meatballs who play in the front line, but they are ones that have a lot of stall as well, with both Pantheon and Fiora having a lot of damage reduction. And who are they stalling for, you may ask? Well, it's Molly's Katarina. What else would it possibly be? Of course he's going to pull this out on Choncc Chortle's last leg. Of course he's going to make this champion look amazing in North American Wild Rift scene. And of course, Sentinels are going to pick in the ever so powerful brand that we've seen tear through, or should I say sear through, the competition today.
quite a crispy pun that you just made there, Smacks.
Thank you.
You sent me ablaze with that one. Now, Sentinels. I love the response, though, of slamming the brand as a response, because if you look at Choncc Chortle, outside of Katarina and Pantheon, there's no easy access into getting onto brand. Because ADs can always hit the Grand Starfall, and Molly will just do Katarina things, but it is going to be... If it gets to the later parts of the game, there's so many meatballs that are all melee range outside of Senna that is going to clump together, and that's going to make for easy pyroclasms for Michael to just get off and just get a ton of damage. And then because of the passive max HP damage that just stacks through Brand's overall kit, and makes it super easy for then Rest on the Kaisa, who has execute damage in her passive. See how this works, Max? Beautiful. Really solid composition idea from both teams.
It's pretty cool. However, the thing that you mentioned that worries me for Sentinels is Molly doing Katarina things.
Indeed.
I think that is probably something the Sentinels want to avoid at all costs. Molly's Katarina things are very, very scary. So they will need to keep a very close watch on what this champion's going to do. And some of that is coming from this mid lane skirmish that we're seeing. Just a push battle, as usually happens, but for Sentinels, they've brought some extra backup. Beg is here because they were able to push in against the Sentinels. Makes a lot of sense that they had that wherewithal, as Sentinels don't have a lot of wave clear, and they don't certainly have a lot of range. So you can see that Rest is able to just stay in this lane all by his lonesome, which is actually something that Nori was wanting to do before on the Lucian. But now it's completely flipped around, where Beg is able to roam around and Rest is not really under any kill threat of any sort.
Now, some people might think, damn, Michael just really yoinked MTS's farm right there? That's crazy. But clearing out the minion wave to make sure that the 3-man dive doesn't come through for the rest of Choncc Chortle. However, Molly might be looking at this brand who's super low on HP. Barrier comes up. Ignite is ticking down, but Michael will not die. First blood will be evaded as Luan might go for something cheeky here, but MTS with a flank on the 80s pops the flash. One more slice and dice. Molly's going to push him back. MTS will be able to run toward the turret and get out safely.
Yes, just hits level 5. If he had that from before, maybe it would have been a different story on the kill threat that he has. Doesn't manage it, though. So we're seeing that even though Rest is playing outside of kill range, he doesn't really feel great about staying around in the turret. They do lose a plate there. Nice chunk of gold for Choncc Chortle, and looks like eventually Rest will succumb to the poke war and take a recall, but not before he gets this bot wave. Luan, though, is kind of struggling in this matchup. I'm surprised by the Fiora pick into Renekton specifically, because it's really difficult to actually land your riposte against the stun specifically for Renekton, because it is just so instant on the auto attack, and you can play around it with the Ruthless Predator whenever you see the riposte used. So I think MTS has a pretty nice matchup into Fiora in this top lane.
Yeah, it's such a huge guessing game, and
yeah,
as long as a Renekton player, you don't do the same trade pattern every single time when you go in, then you will always keep the Fiora on your toes, because the easiest trade pattern is just slice and dice, Ruthless Predator and Nicole the Meek, then slice and dice out. But if you slice and dice in, then they're going to be waiting to riposte that. So you can just start going in for a couple of auto attacks, maybe throw out your Cole the Meek. And at that point, Fiora's just panicking because it's like, when do I riposte? When do I riposte? And so you're just taking all these auto attacks from Renekton. It's like, okay, I need to riposte. And then you've activated my trap card. And then the stun comes in. And it's like, yeah, it's so difficult as long as the Renekton is constantly thinking about that and turning it into a prediction game for the Fiora.
One of the closest things that we have in League of Legends and Wild Rift to a fighting game, where you're trying to block your opponent's attacks and you're trying to predict it like that. Which makes me very excited for the League of Legends based, or the Runeterra based fighting game that's coming.
True!
Fiora's going to be one of the... I feel like Fiora's going to be one of the most toxic characters in that game if she gets something resembling riposte, but we'll see.
Both Sentinels and Choncc Chortle have opted in to a first brick race. But despite that, Choncc Chortle, they picked up Rift Herald, but Sentinels already had the push and were the first ones to the turret. And Choncc Chortle didn't want to have to necessarily use their Rift Herald because either they assumed that they were going to get it beforehand, or they didn't want to waste the Rift Herald just to secure first brick when they want to use it for another turret taking place. Sentinels still being ahead on so many things despite the Rift Herald. They got the first dragon. First brick is available for them as well. They're not necessarily ahead in gold, but they are surviving the early onslaught and ensuring that Molly isn't snowballing on this Katarina.
You're going to need to ensure that throughout the rest of the game, though. This is not a champion that has a small window to punish, nor has a flash.
Hextech ultimatum from Sheesh follows Nori all the way through the flash, and Sentinels at 5 minutes and 45 seconds pick up first blood.
Pretty late into the game, all things considered, but they're going to be feeling pretty good about it as they get to force the flash, too, and we're seeing the strength of the pick threat from Sheesh, and now Molly has to run away also. You do not win this 1v1 against Camille with the Trinity Force. Sheesh, they're coming online a lot slower than usual. Or not than usual, but than we've seen last game. But that's to be expected. This is not an Olaf anymore. You do really want to get that first item for Sheesh to actually go for these ganks. And now that he has it, it's time to hit people with your moves.
Well, Luan's current move is stealing away this red buff, being a cheeky son of a gun. As Sheesh comes over the wall and says, "What, bro, where's my red buff? Huh?"
I'm imagining that one as Michael Udall getting jumped on by Molly. That's the first reset of the game for this Katarina.
Remember when we talked about how the only way you can reach Michael is through Pantheon and Katarina? We didn't mention how you could also just be quite overextended in a side lane. And, yeah. Choncc Chortle gonna take that kill with grace. Notice how they didn't even use Grand Starfall. Hades just walked up because now he uses it onto the Baron lane in this turret push. Nori is in hot pursuit. Molly isn't here quite yet, but is going to be there soon. I think MTS just has to give his life for the greater cause, but everyone is still trying to get out. Flash comes out from rest as they were trying to get as much damage as they could before finally reaching their limits. Choncc Chortle find another kill in that pursuit.
Choncc Chortle have decided that the team fight phase of the game starts now, and they start it on their terms. This is something that I've been looking for them to do throughout this series, and this feels like the first time that it actually is happening. They now get to finally pop that Rift Herald and bonk Sheesh into the turret while dealing a chunk there, but they don't actually break apart the structure yet. Get to wait and go back to base. And like I was saying, Rafa, they actually do engage something themselves. This is a thing that 80s has a lot of agency to do on Pantheon with that Grand Starfall and with the point-click just jump stun that he's got at this champion. And he's already using it very well. I'm looking forward to seeing how he uses it for the rest of the game, like potentially this.
Yeah, Beginnings doesn't even have a chance to get out. It burned the flash after the previous pursuit and rundown in that Baron lane just a couple minutes ago. Sentinels, they're going to see if they can still try to regroup for this dragon, and Michael almost 100-0ing Luan before Sheesh comes in with that Hextech ultimatum, locks him down. Molly, using the Death Lotus, will spin and just shred down Sheesh. Sentinels now 3 on 4. Hestia popping the Nasus, looking for D-Kane, takes out MTS, and Choncc Chortle will have a numbers advantage to look for the second dragon.
The fights are just so hard now for Sentinels, especially because one of their main tools of stopping the Katarina died in the pick before. Beg. Oh, man. Well, that's what I was talking about. Exactly. Thank you, Beg. Great work. Case in point.
I gotta...
Lulu's pretty good against assassins, and
yeah, that's just good
by
timing,
picking the Lulu before, you get to avoid what just happened to Molly after the fact.
Polymorph is a pretty damn good tool. Luan, just trying to take out the wave, but the rest of the Sentinels don't care. They knock it down with ease. Currently, MTS is pushing out the Dragon Lane. Next objective is Baron, but neither team wants to take it quite just yet. Sentinel still got to build up another item, Power Spike, before they'll feel comfortable about starting it up. And as you've noted before, Baron is not the easiest objective to take, especially when all other 5 members of the enemy team are ready to threaten to take you off of it. You also got to give time to rest because he just finished the Blade of the Ruined King. I was waiting on it, but now the Solari Charge Blade will come in next.
Rest getting powerful. We saw what that looked like in game 1 for this player on the same champion. Paired up with Lulu too. Beg playing this one again in a row. I like the look on a different enchanter where... Oh boy. Well, this doesn't look great. Gotta flash out. Yeah. Lots of defensive maneuvers being popped there. And we're seeing 80s gets to come in and find Beg. You really just have to be more careful if you are this enchanter. Because as I was saying, your goal is to just shut down Katarina and buff up whoever's in your front line getting jumped on by these players. And if you're the person getting jumped on, then you have to use all these on yourself. And it just doesn't look as good because Lulu is not a carry herself.
Lulu is meant to empower those around them, not necessarily themselves. Unless, you go for, like, Rod of Ages and Deathcap Lichbane, Chad Lulu build, But not on a support budget.
I thought you were going to say, like, Blade of the Ruined King, Wit's End.
Oh, God, we're not that cursed. Yeah. We can try.
Speaking of, is a great build for Kennen. Please try it out. I'm begging you. It's very good. I'm spreading the word once more.
Smack's trying to spread the Church of Thresh, now the Church of AD Kennen, as right now Luan is in the Church of please, whatever god can help me get out alive, and must have chose the right one because he gets out only burning 2 summoners.
Yeah, gets to escape that one. And for Michael Udall, we're seeing the brand tech of bouncing the Pyroclasm between yourself and your opponent in a 1v1. It's really nice. Hestia can't flash out, but might survive with the exhaust. WoW does so.
80's flank as well.
Wild Growth, yeah.
Rest. Still kiting backwards beautifully. Wild Growth will keep themselves alive. She's still kiting out with the tactical sweep. They've already taken down 80's. Might look for another re-engage. Michael is here. Pyroclasm isn't available, but could still throw out a Searing Charge after using a Pillar of Flame for a stun combo. Flagration is also available. Luan trying to parry what could have been a potential stun from Michael. The rest of Sentinels using this time that they have priority in the mid lane, and all 4 members on their screen from Choncc Chortle to get some vision down in the Barren River.
I really like that you're just throwing out all the brand ability names there. You did, however, get one wrong. You said that it was Searing Charge. It is much less cool than that. It is just called Seer.
Oh, so. I was thinking of Ornn. Damn it.
Yeah. That is an orange one. Yeah, similarly, other champions just get cooler ability names. Like Olaf's ability is called Undertow, and then the new champion Pike, his ability is called Phantom Undertow, just the cooler Undertow.
So what you're saying is some champions get mobility crept, other champions just get name crept on their abilities.
Yep. Well, it's even funnier because both of the newer ones are, in fact, mobility creep, as they are both dashes with the cooler name. So, it's both. The Drake is being taken by Luan in his lonesome. Doesn't really look like Sentinels know this is going on, but doesn't take it very quickly, so they'll find out very soon. We'll see if Sentinels can steal this one away.
MTS on the bottom side of the flank. Because Choncc Chortle dedicated all 5 members, MTS can't engage, but he's done his job. He made sure that Choncc Chortle could not just sit on the lower lip of that Dragon Pit and re-engage. Sentinels are able to bully their way into that second objective, and they get the rotation because they have the inner track side to the mid turret.
Sentinels just running around the rifts at this point. Can just push Choncc Chortle out. And we're seeing the agency and the pressure that Choncc Chortle had before is not very consistent. They do rely on getting a surprise round for 80s to get a jump off for this Pantheon, and then you can follow it up with resets from Molly's Katarina, but it's not not something that you can get done every single time unless you are hugely snowballing, but that's just not true anymore for Choncc Chortle. They have lost that gold lead. They're losing a lot of structures on the map, and I think Nori's about to lose a huge chunk of HP. Yeah, he gotta flash out.
Rest just showing that Kaisa, despite being a marksman, can also be an assassin, thanks to the invisibility you get once your E is evolved. Sneaks in, forces Nori's flash out, which means now, for the rest of Sentinels, hey, sheesh, the next time you see a Senna caught out by the Lonesome, flash ult, baby. That Senna ain't going nowhere.
Sheesh.
Gotta wait for the right time to bust it out. I've been holding
Felt
on
like
it.
the right time.
All right, fair enough, fair enough. I'll have to keep my eyes peeled now, as Sentinels. It's not the largest gold lead, but when we think back to what this composition wants to do, they wanted to bypass the early part of the game where 80s could snowball and just cause chaos with Molly on the Rift. Molly is still farming up and is reaching item breakpoints that still makes Katarina scary, but Sentinels is becoming more well-equipped to deal with those threats.
As long as Sentinels can stop Molly from spinning and resetting, that the time of the game doesn't really matter, which is a good thing really for both teams, I feel, because Choncc Chortle, it means that they have a lot of chances, but it also means that you get burned to a crisp pretty quick on the other members.
Well, 80s does survive with his life. Did not have to burn any summoners on that one. Michael burned Pyroclasm and burned him pretty well. 4k HP, 2k HP. The Baron is burned down by Sentinels. I gotta stop using burned because it's starting to become too common in my vocabulary here, as MTS gets out alive thanks to Redemption, and the rest of Sentinels are able to regroup with the Baron buff on their side.
I think it fits for this game. There's a brand there. There was an Annie earlier, so I think people are, in fact, burning, as Michael Udall might be meeting a similar fate. Nice stasis. There's a Pantheon ultimate over top of the members of Sentinels. A good flash. Can't get away from the stun, and now Wild Growth is the last defense for Michael Udall. Now it's actually going to be Choncc Chortle on the defense as Rest arrives to this fight. So much damage onto every single member. Sentinels don't even lose anybody. Sheesh now in a 1v1. He's very low, but can survive with the Guardian Angel. Rest with a triple kill. Very quietly getting that one up for himself. And I don't know if he can get the Penta, but they likely will just win the game.
I mean, Sheesh was split pushing and was able to deal with Luan while just brute forcing down that turret with the Baron buff on their side. Sentinels get the teleport in from, I believe it was, I don't even know who it was. It looked like Beginnings. Beginnings bought a teleport, and wouldn't you know it, Sentinels, off of a very clean